the biggest hang up that a lot of offices experience is empowering their staff. Let them loose. The patients say, I'm coming in, but I'm going to be late. There's some doctors who are very strict. No, I'm not going to see the patient if the patient is 10 minutes late or whatever, because I got to run on time. Well, I don't know if anybody is 100% on time all the time, but letting the team allow the patient, okay, for this time, Mrs. Jones, you can come in. Just let them have the freedom to do that.
If you're comfortable, you're not growing. Welcome to another episode of Dental Marketing Theory. My name is Gary Bird, and I'm the CEO of SMC National. We provide predictable new patient flow for dental offices just like yours. And today I have Dr. Emily, and I am excited to talk to her because she is not only a practicing dentist, she's also a dental consultant. But before we do that, we got to do the important business. And today we're going to do a quick draft of our favorite Christmas traditions. And because I just sprung this on you, I didn't give you any warning or any prep. I'll let you go first, Dr. Emily.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show and creating this platform so we can share our stories and our strategies. Well, my top five Christmas thing, number one, is going to be a potluck.
Oh, okay. That's a good one.
Yes.
Potluck. So you have, so family comes over, everybody brings their food and eats. Okay. That's pretty good. All right.
Yes.
I'm going to go Christmas gifts. Okay. So Christmas morning, we open up all the gifts, the kids run down and do all that. I know some people do it Christmas Eve, but I don't do that. We do Christmas morning. So I'm going to go Christmas gifts. All right. So what's your second pick after potlucks?
Karaoke. So my family will get together and we sing in Vietnamese. Okay. So karaoke songs. And then the kids can sing in English. And we usually make them sing their holiday program songs that they have to now sing to us.
So you say, hey guys, sit down. You guys are all going to sing to us now. And
Yes.
you make them all sing. Okay, that's pretty good. Okay, so karaoke. I'm going to go Christmas lights. So putting all the lights outside and hanging up all that stuff and putting that. I think that's a big one. Okay, what's your third pick?
The little train that you put around the Christmas tree. We love to do that because with the kids, they put on the little stuffed animals and little things and see how far the train can go. And then you disassemble it and then you put it back, different configuration. So we always love doing that.
That's a good one. Yes. I remember actually doing that when I was a kid and taking it up, putting it apart and bringing that together. That was always fun. All right. I'm going to go custom ornaments that the kids make and they put the pictures in them and the names on them and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty fun.
That's good. And we have a tradition that my youngest would always break one ornament a year. So,
Yep.
I want to go with Christmas cards where we read the cards together, pick out the shining cards, the plain cards, all the cards, and we read all those messages together.
Oh, that's really good. Do you do the whole family? You take a picture every year and send those out in cards too? Do you do that?
No, I don't do that, but the whole family,
read them
ourselves,
together. Yeah.
read them together. We take the
Go
big
ahead.
picture of family on Christmas Eve. So every Christmas Eve, we got 30-some people hanging around the Christmas tree, and then we take a picture.
Man, this is a hard one because I got it. I'm going to go with all the Christmas movies that come out. So all the ones that come out every year, I like all the old ones with Rudolph and the elf that leaves and I also love the movie Elf. That's a good one as well.
Well, Christmas Day, go to the movie.
Oh, you go to the movies?
Yeah, we tend to do that. I would be like the only adult taking a bunch of kids to the movie because I shared with you earlier because I'm Buddhist. So we practice more, the gift giving, the celebration, not so much going to church. But yeah, that's one of the things that we do. I mean, not every single year, but we go see a lot of movies on the 25th. And my kids used to tell me, Mom, only Jewish people go to the movie on the 25th.
I didn't even know they were open. Yeah, I didn't even know they were open on Christmas Day.
Yes, they do. So we go see movies sometime on Christmas Day.
All right. So my last one is football. So right around Christmas time, there's always a ton of football on and I don't have to work. Like dentists don't work around Christmas. So there's not a lot of work for us to do. I like that towards the end of the year, kind of everything shuts down in the dental industry. And so that creates a lot of time to be able to do that. So that was a good draft. You did really, really good. You had some good ones on there. I love potlucks. That was a good first pick. So now let's get into the stuff that everybody wants to hear about. You are a dental consultant and you run a dental practice. And so walk me first through your dental practice. What does your dental practice look like? What do you do day to day? Like, how much time are you investing there?
So I right now I have 2 group practices. It's mixed, HMO, PPO, cash. I'm in Southern California. So I've been a dentist for 29 years, almost 30 years. And so my day-to-day is I have some of my patients. I got my associate. I come in, one of my favorite thing, and it's kind of part of the reason why I go into consulting and coaching, is I like dealing with the people, right? So it's not just the clinical part. It's how do you treat the people? You grow the people, your team, and you keep that relationship with your patients, all of that. So that's one of the things I do is when I'm in there, I'm intentionally increasing my connection with the patients, whether it's a new patient or it's an old-time patient. And so I enjoy doing that. So I spend 2 days in each practice, and the practice has specialists who come in once a month. So we got ortho, perio, OS. I could handle all the kids, so it's okay. And then my associate, they there and they have their own schedule.
Got it. And is your like a GP office that offers a lot of different services? Is that the structure?
Yes. So it's a group practice, a small group practice. So I'm a GP. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And then, in your spare time, you go out and help other practices. So how did you decide to get into consulting on top of being a dentist?
I think I'm a good student, right? So right out of school, one of the things that always fascinated me is studying things that I didn't know. So it started out with reading newsletter, because this is back, I graduated in 93. There were some seminars back then. So I would go to seminars and I would sign up for a newsletter. Some of those newsletters they're not really around anymore. But for example, The Profitable Dentist was one of them. Now it's a magazine, but it used to be a newsletter. I would go to the seminar called The Best Seminar Ever by the Matos Brothers. So very, very
That's a
big.
good name.
Very big on practice management, reading marketing books. And then I was very blessed. I happened to pick up, a book by Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. And I read that book and I went and I read the references and I went and I checked out all those references. So I went down this path of personal growth and business. And about 6 years ago, I felt that like the calling, right? Because I'm talking to colleagues and friends and people are frustrated about whatever is going on in their life, whether it's their business or their personal life. And I'm usually not, because I've learned so many strategies and some, I guess, I just kind of developed myself. And I'm thinking maybe I should share some of this and help people just fast track their way to grow their practice and to grow themselves. And then I actually went through a certification process with Brendan Bouchard, high performance coaching. Mm-hmm. And I've always been studying marketing through Dan Kennedy. So it's been since 2010 or so. Yeah. So now it's about taking that knowledge. And I know that it worked because it worked in my practice because I implemented that.
So your practice is like your incubator or your testing field, right? You can roll things out and it doesn't always, it's interesting because there's so many ideas out there on the internet, but they don't always work exactly plug and play for dental. So you have to adjust them and morph them and make them work for you. So that's really, really cool. So you just kind of followed your passion and you said something that was interesting. You said a lot of dentists are frustrated and this is definitely true, right? There's a lot of there's whole Facebook groups around frustrated dentists, right? And dentists that don't really like to be dentist or don't like certain aspects of being a dentist. And you said that you help them kind of through that. Do you feel that that's more of a mental thing that dentists deal with? Or is it more of a systems and like just a lack of knowledge kind of thing that they're dealing with? Or is it a little bit of both?
I think it's definitely a combination of both. But if I have to pick a limiting factor, it's going to be the personal part, the psychological part. And the reason for that is, there is no shortage of information. You want an employee manual? You could call up your insurance company, right? And they'll probably just give you an employee manual, and then you can just kind of customize it. But are you actually practicing it, right? Are you actually talking to your team about it? And sometimes we don't do that because maybe we don't feel like it. That would be one of them. Or, you know what? Let's say I want to go and restructure somebody's salary, just for example, right? Do I have that courage to do that? Do I actually have a system where I look at it and say, hey, this person is actually not producing whatever I feel that this person should do, or maybe this person is in the wrong position, right? So it's easy to go and get a checklist, to get a manual, to look up information, or let's say call up a consultant and say, so what do I do? And the consultant say, okay, do X. But then you go back and you go, but I don't feel comfortable doing X. One of the most common thing you hear people complain is, but I don't want to fire so-and-so. That's one of the very common one. Or I don't want to go tell her I'm going to cut down her days, or whatever it is. And that's the personal growth part. So I think that's the limiting factor. And it's, psychological in the sense that, do you actually understand yourself first? Right?
Self-awareness,
Yeah. Because if you don't understand yourself, it's going to be very hard to go and convince other people.
Yeah. So if you don't feel good about something that's going on in your life, but you can't really put your finger on it, then nobody can really help you either, right? Because you don't.
Right.
Is it a financial thing, or is it a personal, relationship thing, or is it you're not really supposed to be an entrepreneur? You're more of a technical person, or you're not really supposed to be a technical dentist in there every day. You're more of an entrepreneur. Like, any of those things could be the problem that you're facing. But if you're not self-aware and know which one it is, then you don't really know how to fix it. And that's a really good point. Now, I'll tell this story. One thing that I do know is that early on, when I was working with dentists, a lot of single practices at the time, they would hate firing people. And so I'd come in and I'd say, hey, Susan's on the phone and Susan's not answering the phone, or Susan's horrible at converting these patients on the phone.
Right.
We've told her, we've coached her, we've shown it to her, we've played the calls, and we don't know what to do. We can't be successful marketing wise without this person being removed from this. I'm not saying fire her. I'm just saying move her to a different spot. Right. And they would say, we don't want to hurt her feelings. And I just remember sitting there and thinking, like, you're not going to be successful to where you want to go because you can't make these decisions. You can't pull the trigger because you're kind of scared. They didn't have the framework to be able to work through that. So I totally agree with you. I've seen that over and over and over again in the dental industry. And I'm sure it's true in other businesses as well. Now, changing gears on you, could you give me a story, like a real life story of somebody that you're helping, that you helped them coach through some of those mental blocks that they've been facing?
Yes. So, for example, I work with a specialist, right? And the specialist, her goal is, I want to be the go-to person, right? I want everybody to refer to me. And so the very first question is, well, what have you done to position yourself so you're the go-to?
What kind of treatment? Is she doing all on fours?
No, this is an endodontist.
Oh, wow,
yeah.
Okay.
So this is a specialist, right?
Yeah.
And she wants people to refer to her. So first of all, we need to know what makes you unique, right? Or maybe you're not unique, maybe you're just different, right? And so she got I don't know. So let's talk about how you treat the patients, right? How you book the patients, the technology that you use. So for example, she was using laser to do endo, right? Not all the endodontists do that. So it is a selling point. It is something that you have to put out there. Well, I don't know how to do that, right? So do you send out newsletter to your referring doctors, right? If you want to send out postcards, do you put those things on there, right? The things that make you unique. So she started doing that. And then, I asked her to host, what do you call that? Study club. That's what we,
study club.
That's what we use. We say, hey, you know what? You should host a study club. Well, I don't know what to teach. Well, what are the common things that people ask you? The complications. Maybe this is a risky case. Maybe this is a case that I should refer. So what happened with a lot of us is it's our common knowledge, but it's not common to other people. Exactly. And so this is to bring her to the realization that, hey, you actually know a lot, right? And so now let's leverage this. Instead of answering a GP phone call and ask you, how do I do this? Tell the GP to come to your office, go to your study club. So they meet you every month, right? You're touching them every month.
You're building a relationship with the decision maker.
You're building the relationship. And then they learn from you. And then I also help her leverage her, her vendors. Vendors came, sponsor the meeting, right? Buy the food, buy the drink, and maybe people buy stuff from the vendor. So it's a win-win for everybody. And she totally grew her practice. And this was during the pandemic.
Wow.
Right? Because, and I mean, she got people in her office with masks on, and she's lecturing with a mask on. But I mean, the other thing is just sit there and do nothing. Right? So I was able to help her position herself to stand out in the community, and that way she can grow her practice.
That's really awesome. So you helped her through, she had probably some limiting beliefs that she was struggling with, and then you helped her walk through those, and then her practice grew from it?
Yes. And the thing with the limiting belief is a lot of time we don't realize that it's the limiting belief, right?
Of course.
As ourselves. Many years ago, I got a breakthrough. I was talking to one of my staff, and she's out there selling $20,000 treatment plan or whatever. And then she kind of slipped and said, but this is too expensive for the patient. Right. And so wait a minute. That's your relationship with money. Right.
Yes.
And you have to overcome that in order to help me sell these treatment plan. Right. So some of those things, when a doctor say, no, I'm not going to do advertising. Why does it cost so much? And, I'm not going to do a patient appreciation event because it costs so much. Sometimes the very first thing is your relationship with money is you think that this is cost too much, but you're not able to look at what is the ROI.
Yeah, what's the value?
Yeah, and you have to look at the metrics, and people don't want to look at the metrics. So you're in that little circle where you can't make the next move because of whatever is holding you back today. And I think a lot of us, the consulting, the coach, what we do is we are catalysts. We just kind of help you overcome that part. And so you can just go and implement things that we know that do work.
So after mindset, so you help these people through the mindset, and then you help them put the systems in. What are some of the systems or things that you're helping offices with that are like the biggest hang up that they're experiencing?
I think one of the biggest hang up that a lot of offices experience is they're not empowering their staff. Let them loose.
Yeah. Do you have an example of like an office that was really holding their teams back by just how they dealt with them?
Yeah. So, for example, this is how you should answer the phone, for example, right? I want you to do X, Y, Z when you're on the phone, or you're talking to a patient and you're selling a treatment plan, right? Letting the team, because they're the one dealing directly with the patient, right? Let them have that freedom. So for example, let's just say they're answering the phone and the patient say, I'm coming in, but I'm going to be late. Okay. There's some doctors who are very strict. No, I'm not going to see the patient if the patient is 10 minutes late or whatever, because I got to run on time. Well, I don't know if anybody is 100% on time all the time, right? But letting the team allow the patient, okay, for this time, Mrs. Jones, you can come in. We usually don't do this, but you can come in this time. Just let that person do that instead of, let me go ask the doctor for permission, right? Or you're presenting a treatment plan. It's a big treatment plan. Let the team give the discount. If they know the margin, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's a big treatment plan, I always tell them, this is, however much, go in there and see if you can go ahead and close this case, right? And maybe you can give, let's just say 5% discount. Just let them have the freedom to do that rather than they talk to the patient. Let me go ask the doctor if I can give a discount or I can, And what happened is when you give them that freedom, you empower them. They know that, hey, I'm in charge of the schedule. Sometime, if a patient is a little bit late, I'm going to let this patient come in, right? I'm not going to do this all the time, but I'm running the front, I'm running the schedule, and I can be flexible with the patient. And I think it's little things, but it means a lot to the team member.
Yeah. Why do you think dentists or the dental industry as a whole is struggling with recruiting so heavily? What do you think the root cause of that is?
I think a lot of the root cause of that is leadership.
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, for many, many, many years, let's say my friends, right? No, I want to hire for that position, and she has to have so many years of experience, and she needs to know this, right? But why does it have to be? Because if you hire somebody, and I know it sounds very cliche, right? You hire for personality, and then you train them. Yes. Of course, you also have to look at, okay, is this person smart enough, right? Like they can actually understand what you're trying to teach them. You give them a certain amount of time where you're going to teach them. But if you're so tight about it has to be this, and you don't have a member, like an applicant that totally fit that, you're going to find yourself not being able to find the right team member.
So are you saying, like, am I hearing you correctly? Like, people need to lower their standards of what they want, or are they just not approaching the problem from the right angle?
No, I think they're not approaching the problem from the right angle. Not so much lowering, because there's always a minimum, right?
Yeah.
So for example, let's say I want an assistant. And I say, this assistant, I want an assistant who has 3 years experience. And any of the application come in, if it's less than 3 years, I'm not looking at it. That's what I mean, right? So there might be a lot of people who can actually come in and help you, but because you are so stuck with what you say you absolutely must have, that's why you can't find people. Does that
makes sense? Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's
totally.
Not so much lowering your standard per se, because I'm sure sometimes you have a new person and they're a fast learner, and they do much better than somebody who's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. How do you sort through that? How do you know who the fast learners are? How do you find those people? Like, I think that a lot of people struggle with that. They don't have a system for that.
Well, for me, when we do the interview, we always ask the applicant what they know, right? So for example, you say you know how to make a temporary, you say you know how to scan, you say you know, et cetera, et cetera. And so whatever they say they know how to do, I'm going to trust them on that, right? And I will tell them up front, if you say you know how to do it, then I'm not going to try to show it to you, right? But just make sure that if you say you know how to do it, you know how to do it, right? I do working interview, right?
Oh, okay. So how do those look? How do you do those?
Well, the working interviews basically is, after we already have the interview, the verbal interview, right? And it sounds like, yeah, we may be a good fit. Let's come in and see if we actually a good fit, just for one day. The person get paid, just regular pay. And we just kind of throw them into the schedule. And so here's the fast learner is just going to learn. Like, they're going to see, okay, this is how she likes to do this. The next patient, they already picked that up, right? Or they experience, obviously, the more, if they say I have 10 years of experience and they can't just pick up, whatever I'm doing, then they may not have 10 years of experience. So I do the same thing with associate doctor, right? If you say you take an hour per patient, okay, I'm going to book you 8 patients and let's just have you see the patients. Let's have you do some exam. Let's have you do some like new patient exam, some recall, do a prep. We throw them out in an actual working environment and we just see how they are, because they're the one that are not a fast learner per se. They will say, I can't do this unless I have whatever. If you don't have this composite, I can't do this, right? If you don't have like if you're taking x-rays and you don't have the ring system, I can't do this. Well, what if we just gave you this by stick? Can you do it or not? So for me, that's kind of how I see how that person works, because I know it's a brand new environment, but at the same time, if you know what you're doing, you can function on it. It's like you, right? If I'm just going to give you a totally new business and I say, hey, Gary, can you just give me an overview of what we can do to improve the business? You'll be able to do that because there's some basic things that you look at. So it's the same thing in the dental office. There's some basic things. If somebody's answering the phone, have them answer the phone for you. Just listen to their demeanor, right? Their tone of voice. Do they have a smile while they're talking? Those are things that if they don't have that coming in, they probably weren't answering the phone wherever they were, or they weren't doing well. So does Does that
Yeah,
answer your
totally.
question?
So let me change gears on you a little bit. What's your thoughts on? So we got two competing things going on right now in the dental industry, and these are both kind of hot topics. So number one, you got dental students who are coming out of college. I think they're about 50. It's like 52, 53% women coming out. So there's a demographic shift. There's also a debt shift. People are coming out with at least $500,000 in debt. And then on the other end, you have DSOs that are coming in and they're buying up practices and buying up groups now. And so you have these two things coming in at the same time where you have students who are coming in high debt. You have the private practices are being bought up. What are your thoughts on the state of the market when you think about those two things?
I really think the dental school should teach the student, and I've been fighting about this since 2012. I actually volunteered to be the alumni president at UCLA for 2 years. And because I'm like, we got to teach this, and it's like pulling teeth, right? Because you're sitting on the board and you say, we need to do a marketing seminar. And they go, no, we're too busy. And this is for alumni, right? Because I want to provide value for the alumni. I think the dental school need to be able to teach. They can't teach it. They're just saying that they don't have time. Teach a student the economics of it. When you come out, you can work for a DSO. You basically get a job, right? Or you go and you work maybe for a private practice or mixed practice or whatever, and you got that more of a flexibility, right? That because you're probably in 1099 in California, you may still be an employee, but that's a little different than working for a DSO. Yeah. My thought has always been when you come out, you should try to work for different places to learn different things. So you know what you like, because you don't know what you want. You just think you know, but you don't. Yeah. Right? So let's say you go work for a DSO and they have great system. You don't have to figure out anything, right? Maybe you like that. You go over here and you work with a solo practitioner and they
systems.
And they make you figure things out, but maybe you're okay with it.
Yeah. Or maybe you go work for a pedo Medicaid office and you learn how to do treatment really fast.
Yeah.
Right?
So speed. So when I first started, I actually worked with 3 different offices, right? So I worked 6 days, 3 different offices, 3 different demographics. And at that time, I just thought because I like different things, which is turned out to be true because with the Kobe assessment, I'm a quick start. So I like different things, right? And I didn't mind driving an hour.
What's your Kobe? What are you on the quick start? Are you
I'm a 7.
A 7, got it.
So I'm 6'4", 7'3". So
6'4", 7'3". Okay, I'm a 7'6", 5'3".
Okay. So you're a fact finder. So I didn't mind driving an hour because that was a private office, right? And then over here, I had one of those offices, kind of like a chain office. So back then we didn't call them DSO, right? It's a chain, and they have all these systems. And no, doctor, you're gonna do this because this is what we tell you to do, and then so you do it that way. And then you just kind of figure out which one do I like, right? And then you're gonna borrow or you're gonna learn the system over here, so that when you have your own office, you understand what system can do. And so that would be my thing to solve this. Number one is pressure the school wherever you are. Like maybe you're teaching at the school, maybe you're part of the alumni board, whatever it is. Pressure the school to teach the senior class, at least, on all of these things about business, like the economics.
Yeah, because here, let me give you. I've talked to some dental schools, and here's how their presentation of it. So, like when you go to school to learn how to code, right, to build whatever online, they don't teach you about the economics of business. That's a separate degree.
Right. So UCLA, actually, so I went to UCLA, and my daughter is actually going to graduate next year from UCLA as a dentist. Right.
That's awesome. Yep.
So,
I've actually spoken at UCLA, and I've done I'm working on setting up some marketing stuff with for some of their alumni and senior students. Oh,
awesome. That's awesome. So they actually have partner up with some DSOs, and the students rotation, they're rotating through a DSO.
Yes, to learn. And so that's to learn. But to get their clinical skills up to speed faster, right?
Yes, but at the same time, now you're in a real environment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're waiting for your assistant to go get something for you, that's real. If you're
Yeah.
running out of stuff, that's real. If the patient come in late and you have to make up for the time.
That's more on like the real life opportunities that you're going to face as a clinician, but they're not learning anything about business from that, right?
I think it depends on the student. I'm sure the student can ask questions. So if I were Dr. Bill who run the UCLA program,
I love Dr. Bill.
I would say, hey, Dr. Bill, maybe ask the clinic to do a huddle with the student. You know what I mean? Like that particular entity can kind of teach them a little bit, so they kind of know. Because at the school, you only see one patient in the morning, one patient in the afternoon, and you don't really look at how much
the volume's not there. Yeah,
yeah, the volume is not there, and the kids actually they don't worry about it until it's almost time to graduate. Now they're looking at it and say, "Oh, I'm short of 100 points or whatever it is." Now they're working at it. In the real life, you need to look at the number every day, right? So and I don't know, like in my first job, I asked a lot of questions. Well, I got into trouble too because I'm asking too many questions. What does this mean? Why is this fee? And why does this one have a red label? And why is it a blue label? I think any of the students can actually ask that if they actually wanted to learn, you know? Or, okay, so this patient's name, and this is the insurance, and that's the insurance. What are the difference about the insurances kind of thing? So part of it also has to come from the student.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And I think business, the other thing is I think that sometimes people confuse that dentistry or any skill, marketing, you can use marketing or you can use finances, right? Or anything. They confuse being able to do a thing with also being able to operate a business. Operating a business is a unique skill,
right?
Just like doing dentistry is a unique skill. And think about all the time you put in just to learn how to do a filling or to do just like the most basic thing inside of dentistry. But sometimes we just take it for granted that, oh yeah, then I'll just operate a business around it. And there's all these nuances around business. It's hard. It's not easy. And it's a skill that you have to learn, just like dentistry was a skill you have to learn.
Yeah, and for me, what bothers me is that new grads who come out and they immediately say, let me go learn how to do implants, right? Let me sign up for this symposium to learn to do whatever more clinical stuff. Whereas what you really need to learn is how to deal with people, how to sell the treatment plan, some marketing aspects of it, some basic business aspect of it. But I think that part has to come from the school, right? The school need to plant enough seed and tell the student, okay, there's 100 things that you need to know. We're only going to teach you 20 as far as business. So as soon as you leave here, you need to go learn the other 80. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to UCLA and I go, can I go in there and just teach some basic business? Right? And one of the associate dean now is Dr. Lee. He was a year behind me. So I mean, like I know some of these people and they just can't push things through fast enough.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other problem. So let's say you do go in there and you finally get it approved to go talk about the business stuff. The business stuff you might be talking about might not be up to date now because of how long it takes, the bureaucracy of just how all that stuff works to get it pushed through. That's one of the hangups of college in general.
Right.
And it's definitely a problem. Is there any topics that we didn't cover that you think we should have?
Well, I think what I always like to let people know is there's always the next level, right? Which is why I do high performance coaching. And the next level is how do I do things faster? How do I do things better? How can I be the best version of myself? So in high performance coaching, we focus on the person, right? To have more clarity, to be more productive, to have more courage, to understand, have better psychological understanding of yourself and of the people around you, to set life purposes, to understand how to persuade people to follow you as a leader, patients as a customer. All of that, we always have that next level. And whenever we feel comfortable, we probably are not at that next level because we're probably plateauing, right? Because, okay, this is what I usually do. I'm good with this, and this is where I stay. So one of the very simple thing, for example, I think I emailed it to your team, but it was kind of late. The video. And what it is it's an app, right? And for the patient to look at it, look at the smile, and it's right in their mouth, right? It's live. And, I talked to some doctors and they are, well, but it doesn't look perfect. But maybe it should be longer or whatever, wider or whatever. And I tell them, this is for the patient. This is not for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Because for the dentist, we're always going to look at that and we're going to be very critical about it.
Yeah.
But
what a dentist thinks that is perfect dentistry, a patient doesn't view it that way.
Exactly.
I have a funny story. I had one time someone from an office sent me a bunch of pictures, said, hey, can you put these up on a website? We looked at them. They look great. It was a beautiful smile and the patient looked great. The doctor found out like a week or two later, went to the site and said, what are those pictures doing on this site? Those weren't done. And there's this, look at these problems. It was all stuff the dentist could see. I couldn't see it. The patient couldn't see it. No one else could see it or had any idea that it was going on. Everybody else was like, these are beautiful smiles. Like, these are really, really nice. But the dentist could see all the problems and had us take down the pictures. And they were scared of what their peers would see.
Exactly.
And they cared more about that than what the patient would see.
Exactly. And that's why I was saying about courage, right? Or what would my peers say? Well, this is for the patient. How many more patients can you help serve? If you could tell them how their smile would look, so that would motivate them. And the person who came up with the app, he actually had 2 sets of veneers because he used to play football and, mess up his teeth. And the doctor, when they put the veneers in, it wasn't what he thought it would be, And then he had to go and have them redone. So that's what motivated him to come up with that. So that's from a patient standpoint. But of course, you go show it to the dentist and they are, well, this is, this and this. And can you make longer, wider? And so that's something for you to worry about after the patient say yes, right? And if you don't know how to do it, let's say it's going to be 12 veneers and you don't know how to do it, then yes, you need to sign up for classes and go learn how to do it. But in the meantime, this is a tool that you can use to help patients say yes more easily. It helps your staff close cases. So if that's something that you're interested in, then you should start using it, right? And it has nothing to do with what is your clinical skill. Do you know how to do it? You're afraid that other people can say this and that. And that just show you that the limiting belief in the sense that, I need to be perfect first before I go and I do this. And you don't have to. What you need to do is you need to be able to serve the patient by educating them, right? Showing them what's possible. And, let's just say I don't know how to do it. Just for example, let's say the patient say yes, and it's a big case and I don't know how to do it. I may invite my prosthodontist friend to come into my office and treat the patient. So the first thing is they think that they have to be able to produce that 100%. And the second thing is they think they're the only person. They have to do it all. And you don't have to do it all. It's like if you're going to do cosmetic dentistry, sometimes you have, gingival contouring, right? And you could have perio do that, or you can do that with your laser. But those are not things that we are taught as a GP first coming out of school. Those are all added skill that we have to learn, right? So that's what I think. And I run into that a lot where people just give me the excuse. And I think what we do when we do the coaching is we raise that ambition. We raise that ambition so that excuse is no longer valid.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so if a dentist wants to connect with you and get help from you or learn some of this stuff from you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, they can go to my website. Is dremilyletran.com. It's DREMILYLETRAN. And I have a high performance quiz on there. They can take a quiz and see where they are. They can book a complimentary focus call with me. We get on the phone. We solve one problem that he or she may have. And we chat about whether or not I can support them going forward.
Awesome. Well, you did a great job today. It was fun learning about your business and all
Thank
the
you.
different perspectives that you have. And I'm sure you're going to continue to do awesome things. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you so much.